Seems kind of bright. Oh well, what can you do? I got everything going. I decided not to turn off any lights or set up any kind of staging or anything. This is just how it's going to be. Today, oh by the way, welcome back to the Voodoo Garden. My name is Ray. I am the host of this wonderful menagerie of color and smells and textures that I lovingly refer to as the Garden of Voo. My little friend here has a name, and most of you know it, so I'm going to start off with this. I promised you last week that I was going to give you a grand tour of the Voodoo Garden, and I'm going to hold on to that promise and start off with this little beauty. Doesn't look like much now, but this is something that really, I don't know, it has a special place in my heart, and it has a special place in a lot of people's gardens right now. And it's nothing more than a tomato plant, but it was named, not by me, but by other people, as the prax cherry. Yeah, the praxis cherry. Remember that one? Yeah, you're surprised to see that because I mentioned a few years ago that I was going to stop growing this. And I had every intention of never growing it again. Now, for those of you who have never heard of this, I'm going to give you just a 1-minute information tour of what this thing is. But first of all, come on over here and take a look at this. Actually, no. You came all the way over here. I'm going to come over there and I'm going to show you what this is. This is a tomato plant that's called the prax cherry tomato. Now this plant started its entire path in life as what was called bush cherry red. That was the name of it, bush cherry red. I purchased it at a greenhouse. I planted it in my garden. I was impressed with it. It didn't grow very tall. It was a bush cherry, which means it's a shorter, bushier plant. Great for people who don't want a tomato plant going to the moon. I grew that. It put out beautiful cherry tomatoes. It was the picture-perfect small plant. So what I did was I saved a couple seeds from it, planted it the next year. Actually, I planted it in my house. It grew cherry tomatoes in my house throughout the winter, and I was munching on those things. I liked it so much, I saved seeds from that plant, planted more. And throughout the generations, and I believe that this is on generation 11. Yes, 11 generations of seeds have been saved from this. I saved seeds for, I think, maybe it was 9 generations. People were so impressed with this because what happened is it started out as a hybrid. Yes, a hybrid that was bred for short size and also for compact production of little cherries, a determinate plant, which means it doesn't put out its fruit at various times. It puts it out all at once. Very desirable. Well, what happened was when I grew it, it reverted back to one of its parents or grandparents or great-grandparents, somewhere down the line. It reverted back to one of its parents. One of its parents was actually very delicious, and it was also indeterminate. It also was not a bush. So what this reverted back to was something that was totally different from what it started out as in my garden. The nice thing about it, though, is it retained what the best part of what a bush cherry tomato was. The stockiness, the sturdiness. It's slow to bolt, which means it's slow to go crazy in your garden, which is actually kind of nice. So it starts out by thickening up its stem, getting a nice strong look to it. For a little tiny plant, you saw this up close, it's a sturdy looking little booger. It's got a stalk already as thick as a pencil. That's a good thing. So it kept the best traits of the bush plant, and it took on the best traits of what its parent was, and the flavor got better and better. People enjoyed seeing this so much on my programs that they asked if they might have a few seeds. I started saving seeds from this and giving it away to everybody I possibly could throughout the years. My only condition, my caveat to this was, if you enjoy this plant, save seeds and give them to other people. Pay it forward. And if you like this plant, let's try to get it worldwide. And that's what they did on my programs, in my audience, on my programs here, and also on the Praxis 55712 channel, also on my Facebook channel. They save seeds. People grow this every single year in their gardens. They enjoy it. They share with their friends, family, and also with strangers. So every November, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, on my Facebook page, all my friends come together on there, and we have what's called a seed swap. And I've mentioned this before, you don't have to have anything to offer. All you have to do is show up, and people will offer you a variety of seeds from the whole spectrum of the garden, and we share. One of them that they share is this. Now, I mentioned that I was done with it. I had grown it. I've done everything I could with it. I was leaving it to my friends to keep this species going. One friend, she contacted me and asked me, Ray, would you ever consider growing this again? Because I really did enjoy seeing it growing in your garden. I thought about it and I said yes. So I went back on my word to never grow it again. And I figured, why not? I'm a big stinking liar. I can grow anything I want. I can do whatever I please. So even though I said I wasn't going to grow it, I decided, you know what the heck, let's give it another shot. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grow this, save seeds, and keep the species going and see what it looks like in my garden or in the Voodoo Garden. I haven't really quite decided where it's going to grow, but I do say that it's going to grow. That's the first thing on the tour, and I call it the rebirth of a legend, because this little plant, unbeknownst to me at the time, is what really got my name on the map as being a gardener. Growing this, and people were so impressed with this plant that I got a little bit of attention in the gardening community, and people enjoyed it. So I'm very thankful for this plant for helping me along. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to help it along. This is the first plant. I planted the seed just I think a couple weeks ago. It sprouted, and in just this short amount of time it got like that. It's a miracle worker, it is. It grows really, really fast. It puts out a heck of a production, and it'll freak you out. If you grow this thing, it starts out kind of slow and you're like, well, I'm not really that impressed with it. And then you turn your head and boom. I've grown this little plant that started out as a 3-foot, I know I'm going on about this, but it's really kind of remarkable. I bred it down to back from a 3-foot tall bush plant to where I grew it indoors 1 year to be 14 and a half. I think it was 14 and a half feet tall. It hit my ceiling and grew across my ceiling. Yes, and you know what? Just to show you what this plant did indoors underneath not even as good a light as we have here. I'm going to put the link. I'm going to find that program. I want to put the link below this program so you can actually see the plant and see how big it got and how weird. It was just this big tall thing I was propping up on a stick, and it just kept growing and growing. It just had no intention of stopping. Not bad for indoors. Okay, that's the one plant. Now I'm going to speed through this because I have so many plants I couldn't possibly give them the amount of time I just gave that cherry tomato plant. But I did want to show you what's going on in here and the progress that I made in the Voodoo Garden. So without further ado, I'm going to grab you and face you over that way. We're going to work our way from left to right, and I'm going to show you all the little plants. And if you have any questions when we're done, feel free to ask me any questions. Until then, get ready. Grab your cocoa, your chocolate, your kids, your dogs, your cats, and let's do our tour. Underneath my old grow lights, I have just a few on this shelf. I don't know why I put this shelf up here. I may take it down and put it on a bigger shelf because this really doesn't hold a lot of plants. But it is good for putting them underneath this light. One little plant that started out from a clipping, I mentioned it on a previous program, you saw this, is my little coleus. I thought for sure this thing was going to start growing and going crazy. Well, you know what it decided to do? It decided the first thing it wants to do before it starts growing is put out a flower. So my little tiny cutting put it put out a flower cluster, because you know what? Why not? Why not? So as soon as this flower is done, I'll clip it off and hopefully it'll start growing again. One plant that was doing really well but decided not to do well is my pothos. And I don't know why. You know what? We never know what our plants are going to do or what they're not going to do. And that's what makes gardening so interesting for us. This pothos, I took cuttings from the mother plant, stuck them in my soil. They grew well for a while, and then they just started getting a little wonky, and one of the leaves died and the other leaves aren't doing so well. I don't know if it's going to grow or die, but you know what? Not going to worry about it. If it wants to grow, it'll grow. If it wants to die, it'll die. I think I'm going to leave it up to the plant. But I will keep you updated on how it goes because I really do like those plants. Now over here, there's a fungus net in my soil, and I'm going to have to spray that because I don't like fungus nets in my soil. There's a whole lot of soil for a very thin plant that's vining up here. And this is a type of pea. Yes, it's the type of pea called a blue butterfly pea. It's not much of a plant right now, but then again, I don't know what it's going to do. It's supposed to put out some really pretty flowers. But it just grew this spindly little thing and is held up by hooks on the lattice. I'm hoping that it'll grow a little bit bigger, and with Sock Monkey just propping it up over here, maybe it will. Don't know. And this one, Kalanko, I don't know. Every time I pronounce this, I mispronounce it, and people correct me, and then I forget it, and I mispronounce it another time. This is a flowering succulent type plant that's putting out flowers underneath these lights. I think the flowers are going to be pink. These things, I found out through experience, do not like to be overwatered. They hate it, and yes, they hate it. And right next to it, not a succulent, this is a palm. Not a very impressive palm, but it's impressive to me in the fact that it's putting out a new leaf. After so long of just sitting there, threatening to die, it decided to stop threatening me and decided to start growing. So I really do appreciate that. This is called a foxtail palm. Some of you who may have grown those, you're probably laughing right now, but not every plant in the Voodoo Garden is breathtaking, okay? We do have some average ones, and I like to show people the average ones and even the bad ones so that you can see that I'm nothing special. I'm a gardener just like you. I try, I kill, I succeed, I fail just like everybody else. Now this thing, I think, and I may be wrong, it's called a night blooming Cerberus or Cerebus, something like that. It started out with a little tiny leaf. See those long leaves? Yeah, it started out with a smaller leaf like that. And I shoved it in the soil. Somebody sent me that leaf. I shoved it in the soil way down here. Now I'm panning as slow as I can so I don't make you seasick here. The stem goes way down to this little pot in the corner, and this plant will never be moved because it's not self-supporting. It sent out this little stem, and it started putting out leaves. And it gets exponentially bigger and bigger. You can see the new leaves coming out of the old leaves. That's how it grows. It'll put out a long leaf, and then the leaves will put out little buds of leaves, and those will turn into big leaves. And then once in a while, it'll just shoot a stem right out of a leaf. No rhyme or reason, but hopefully, people say that they've never seen one bloom indoors. I'm hoping to change that. And right down from that, this is the, I mentioned it on the Praxis 55712 channel, questions and answers that'll be airing in just a couple days. This is a philodendron. It's a good low light plant. And so is the pothos that I showed, the one that was half dead. Yeah. This one is a variegated one, and it's unlike most of the ones that I've ever seen grown in my life. This is a vining philodendron. They have ones that stand up and grow all over. There's a bunch of different types of these. This one is called Brazil. Yeah, I think it's called Brazil. I just looked at the tag. Now the thing about this one is it doesn't seem to have, I thought it was going to have really delicate little stems vining down. Ooh, no, not in Ray's garden. This thing has these really beefy looking strong stems, and as they grow, I've noticed they like to put out support roots or aerial roots, but also look at the roots on this one. And if you take this little cutting and you put it in the soil, those roots will grow down and you can start a whole new plant. The entire plant is doing this on every single one of its branches. So I have no idea what's going to happen. If it reaches the floor, it's going to be shooting all kinds of roots into another plant. And I'm hoping that doesn't happen because I want to keep it all contained in this pot. Maybe I'll hang it from the ceiling. Don't know. And we're going to slide over here because this beauty is something that I've been dying to show you. This is called a bird's nest fern. You've probably heard of this, and they're generally not that remarkable because they're all compact and smaller. This one I got as a smaller one, and yet I put it in the Voodoo Garden, put it in some good quality soil, and it started to grow. I'm going to shove your face into the middle of it because, you know, that's what I do. I shove your face. And this is what it looks like inside. The little cluster, these prehistoric creatures have been growing for millions of years the same exact way without having to change for us. And it's wonderful how they come out. Just like a regular fern, like a fiddlehead with the curled leaves, and then they straighten up. But what happens when they do straighten up, it's actually kind of a work of art. And I'm going to move you over here. Look at that. These aren't separate leaves, it's the same leaf. It puts out different sections and then little fingers on the tips of that. Is that beautiful or what? And up close, in person, you can see little stripes, veins, all along the leaf. And this is what the whole thing does. This is what's called a bird's nest fern. It doesn't require special care or misting or anything like that. It sure as heck doesn't get any special care here in the Voodoo Garden. And that's how it grows. And right over here, this one is, it would be a common English ivy, but no, nothing's common in here. This is a variegated English ivy, and that just means that it has a variety of colors. White, green, light green, and look, up close, even some gray. Yeah, it has 3 colors, and it's growing beautifully. It was a real teeny tiny plant. It decided to vine and grow out after I transplanted it. It's doing really good. This was one of those ones that only cost a couple dollars in the hospital section of Walmart. And one thing that it started to do, which I found is odd, out of one stem, where you can see the leaves are variegated, it decided to stop being variegated. Is that odd or what? It's not a different stem, it's the same exact stem. You can see the leaves coming out of it with variegation, and then it's decided, nah, not this time. Kind of weird how plants will do things that we don't really expect. I like the look of this, the way it just goes down, different arms, and I'm not doing anything. I'm not pruning it, training it, or anything. So I'm really happy with this. It's on this old ironing board. Mike used to work in banks, so he used to have to iron his shirts. Well, he doesn't work in banks anymore. He works putting tires on cars, and he's happier doing that. And I was going to donate the ironing board to charity so they could sell it to somebody or give it to somebody. And I decided, nope, I'm going to use it for a shelf because it's adjustable and it looks kind of cool in here. And plus I needed a shelf. Right down here, the showstopper in every show I have, this is Prince of Orange. Prince of Orange. This is another type of philodendron, just like the one that's touching it from above. They are related. They're cousins. Yes, only this is a slightly, well, not so slightly, this is a different type of philodendron, the type that has a thicker stems and gigantic leaves. They come out, and I've shown this before, they come out orange, and then they turn a brownish color, then they turn green, and they turn the most beautiful forest green as soon as they mature. There was one plant in here in a very small pot when I first got it. I planted it in a bigger pot and it split and it turned into two. So we have a growing part over here and one over to the left. Now one thing I want to show you is this thing is constantly flowering. I tried to stop it because the flowers are unremarkable, but you know what? It didn't want to stop. So I'm not going to try and force my plants to do what they don't want to do. These are flower pods right here. They open up just a tiny bit and there's this white cone that looks like a peeled banana in there. Yeah, it's got a few of them going on in all different times. These are very easy to take care of. Give it a good solid watering, let it dry out, repeat the process. Now you're going to have room for something like this because look, this is in a very large pot, a 16-inch pot, and it is getting big. It makes you wish that you would have given it a bigger pot to start out with. Too late. There's no way I'm going to transplant it now. And this one is an old standby that I pruned back. It grew, I pruned it back and it grew. You've seen this one in previous episodes. This is a Schefflera or Arbicola, also known as a Hawaiian Schefflera. They have different kinds, the ones with the real long leaves, the softer leaves, and the ones with the shorter leaves. This is the one with the shorter leaf. They do require dusting every now and then if you have a dusty house because they will gather dust. They're susceptible to spider mites. But you know what's really nice about these is they take very little care. They like rich, well-drained soil. Let the soil dry out and then water it again. Do not keep your soil overly moist or these things will just rot away. And I keep throwing old soil from old pots in here. You can see the vermiculite and stuff from my hydroponics. I just throw crap in here and the plant absolutely loves it. And I've pruned it back and it gives it kind of a little bit of a bonsai type of appearance here. It keeps it shorter too, so it's not taking up too awful much space. They are very easy to grow. They grow well in bright light or even medium low light. Now this one here, I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'll admit that right off the bat. This is a plant that, well, it's a relative of a plant that you make tequila. Well, you may not make tequila, but Jose Cuervo does. This is called agave. Yes, and normally agave are known as plants with really thick, fleshy leaves. Well, there are different types of agave. Yes, there are, and this is one type of agave. It looks like a pineapple, doesn't it? These are softer leaves. Now, in an upcoming program on the Praxis 5572 channel, Weekend Edition, this thing stabbed me. Yeah, because they have little tiny needles right on the tips of their leaves. Yes, they are. And it's like being stung by a scorpion because it hurts. It's not poisonous, but you're just walking along, singing a song, all of a sudden, dah! Yeah, and it makes that sound too. Dah! This one has grown from a little itty bitty slip of a plant to something that I have no idea what it's going to do. Maybe it'll send up a flower stalk one of these days. People tell me it won't, but then again, people tell me a lot of things, and I just go about my merry way. It's kind of a cute plant, isn't it? It doesn't take up a lot of space. It doesn't take a lot of care. Just let it stay dry most of the time, and every now and then flood it with some water, and it's happy. Spider plant. Yep, an old favorite. This one is made from babies, and I've shown you throughout the months how I started this out with just itty bitty starts that I took off of the mother plant. It's got 5 of them in there, I believe. Yep, there's only 5 little tiny plants in there, but they're not tiny anymore. And one thing that you want to make sure of when you're growing a spider plant, let it dry out, water it thoroughly, and then let it dry out. Also, use a lot of nitrogen when you're feeding these plants because they're all leaf. No stem, all leaf. And nitrogen is good for leafy growth. So if you're growing a plant that has nothing but leaves, of course you're going to want to use a lot of nitrogen. And it will send out babies. That's what they do best. That's what they're known for. They used to be called airplane plants. Remember? Older people will remember them being called airplane plants because they put out little babies. And those of you who don't know that, you'll see this cluster of stuff at the bottom. Just place this in a little pot of soil while it's attached to the parent, and there'll be little nubs right here. See those little nubs? Yep. Make sure those touch the soil. And within a few weeks, you'll notice it start to grow. And once it grows, you can snip off the stem, and you got a brand spanking new plant that you can grow or give to a friend. Yep, once you have one of these, they're forever. Now right behind it is a plant I've had for a few years. This is called a papaya. I keep calling it the guava, I don't know why, but no, it's a papaya. And it started out as a seed, yeah, just a seed, and the stem now is thicker than my arm. Yep, not kidding. Look at that. Yep, nice thick trunk. And that's because I pruned it back. You can see the prune spot right here. I pruned it back because it got too tall. It touched the ceiling in this room, which is about 7 feet tall. I chopped it back to a stump. I wasn't sure whether it was going to grow again, and it did. It put out 4 new stems, and now they're growing towards the ceiling. So you can do that with a papaya if you're growing it indoors. No, this is not a dwarf. I thought it was a dwarf. No, it's not. I always get surprised by my plants. Now that one, it prefers brighter light. Now the spider plant, it can grow under any kind of light condition, but it prefers brighter light. So does the papaya. I got this as a small one at Walmart for a couple bucks, and I put it in a new pot recently. They do put out the roots. They don't mind being root bound, so don't worry about that. They like medium to bright light, and just like almost every plant I grow, let it dry out, then water it again, let it dry out, water it again. This one here does not like to dry out too awful much. This is one of the older plants, oldest varieties of plants on Earth. They were around before many of the dinosaurs, and that amazes me. A plant that has been around practically unchanged since before certain life that came here and lasted hundreds of millions of years and died off, and this plant is still here. It's called the sago palm, and it has this onion-looking thing down here. Roots that go down, and I put that mostly in like a peat moss and coir mix, not very rich. I'm going to stand on a stool here and try not to fall into it. The leaves are very hard, dark green, and actually quite beautiful. And this will get really big, and they will last a lifetime. They will outlive you. Yes, these plants live forever. No, the plant doesn't live 200 and something million years, but they've been on Earth for that long. Where they came from before then, I have no idea. Swinging over here. I'm standing on a stool. Yes, I'm way the heck up here because I can't reach in that far. Over there, jade. Yep, that's a jade. That started out as a small plant. People ask me, Ray, how do you grow your jades? I don't really have a way of growing them. I just put them in soil like all my other plants. I don't put them in a cactus mix or sandy soil. I just throw them in regular soil. So they're growing in rich, composty, well-drained soil. Trick is, I let it dry out and stay dry for a couple weeks, and then I give it a good solid watering. And it seems to like that. Every time I water it, I get a spurt of growth on this thing. And they will get big, fat, stinking woody stems on them if you grow them long enough. This one over here doesn't look like much, and it isn't really that much right now. This is called Mule Team Tomato. This is the one that I'm going to be growing for seeds to give to people. It looks like crap right now, doesn't it? And that's because I don't seem to have that good of luck growing tomatoes indoors for long periods of time. I used to, but right now, I don't know. Maybe I have the room too humid, or I have them too far away from the light. I have no idea. But this one is destined to be outside. I planted it from a seed from a plant I grew last year, and then it's going to go outside and grow and produce, hopefully, a record amount of tomatoes. They are delicious too. Best tasting tomatoes I've ever had in my life. And this one over here is going to be crazy. I know a lot of people probably don't like this one. This is called an angel's trumpet. And it's poisonous. But so, you know, just don't shove it in your mouth. There's my warning. Don't shove these things in your mouth. Keep your mouth closed. Eat upstairs. Don't eat your plants. This one will put out big, beautiful flowers that will attract pollinators. I'm hoping this will go outside. I started it from a seed sent to me by a viewer. So hopefully it's going to grow. It's just a start right now. It's only a few weeks old. And this one, a lot of you have seen in office buildings everywhere. It's called Dracaena, or dragon tree. There are a few different types of this. There's a tricolor, which I believe this might be, which has more pink in it. And there's also the marginata. There's a few other different ones too, but I'm just going to go with dragon tree. Okay, let's just keep it simple. These things will grow very tall. They'll grow very tall. They like bright filtered light. And also, one thing you'll notice when you're growing these is you'll notice the bottom leaves keep dying. That is normal, that's natural, that's supposed to happen. These are trees, which means they're not going to have leaves all the way down to the ground. That's not their nature. Their nature is to have a long, slender, curving trunk and a display of leaves at the top. So as this grows, what I do is, and also it keeps it from getting fungus, you take a leaf, and I'm going to push you right in here so you can see how to do this yourself. Don't cut the leaves off. Take the leaf, take your finger and push downward, snaps the leaf off. Throw this in your compost pile. And do this so that only at the top you have maybe a foot's worth of leaves, and that will allow the trunk to harden up, turn brown, and be strong and self-supporting, and it keeps the leaves growing from the top. That's how you take care of your dragon tree. Let the soil dry out, water it in, give it rich soil, and also water it with compost tea. They do appreciate that. If your leaves start getting brown on the tips, that means you're overwatering them or over-fertilizing them. Don't be tempted to do that. This is called, it looks like a regular squash or cucumber, but it's called a Vietnamese milk melon. And it's just a baby. This is only a few weeks old since I planted the seed. They sprout fast and they grow incredibly fast. As soon as your kids are away from the computer, type in Vietnamese milk melon in Google and you'll see it. Somebody, one of my viewers, had a great sense of humor and decided to send me these seeds. I thought it was hilarious because I have a warped sense of humor, and I decided to grow it. Sue me. So this one is another Dracaena, I believe. They call it a corn plant, a multicolored one. Yep. And they require the same type of care that regular dragon trees do. The same thing I told you about the other one. That's how you take care of this. They just have wider leaves, but I love the stripes on those. And right down here, as I step down, I asked my viewers, I asked all of you how to take care of this, and you gave me good advice. I transplanted it into a bigger pot. I keep it watered, but not too watered, and it has started to put out new leaves all over the place. So I want to thank you for helping me out. You know, I am not the expert, like I keep telling everybody. I am not an expert. I make mistakes. I need advice. So sometimes when I need advice, I ask folks. Sometimes when I don't need advice, they give me advice. But I do appreciate it. I take the advice that I need, and I just let the rest just roll off my back. And you've seen this one in a previous episode. This is my two-headed avocado. I have no idea how long this is going to live. People ask me advice on how to grow avocados. My advice is don't take advice from me. I never managed to get them this old. And when they start getting this old, they start fading away. So I don't know how this one's going to do. I'm just enjoying the ride as it is. I'm just glad it's not dead. Some people can grow them really well. I'm not one of those people. No. down here hiding in the shadows. Yes, this is purple passion. You've seen this one on other programs. All my pots and other stuff that I store underneath the table down here. Yep, this is all the junk that you don't normally see. Hey, I gotta store it somewhere, but I don't normally have my plant down here underneath the table. I just put it there for setting up the stage for the program. Generally, I have all of them out in the center of the room getting great light, but I can't do that and film at the same time. Otherwise, where would I walk? But she's gonna probably not be here that much longer because I have her baby growing, and I'll show the baby in just a few minutes as soon as they get up onto the table. I just transplanted it not too long ago. This is what's called a peace lily. You've seen these before. They grow little flowers that are usually white or green. This one started out as a little rescue from Walmart, and it grew and it filled up the pot, and then I transplanted it and it lived. I've killed so many of these that I actually know what I'm doing now. And that's the key to my success, is I kill things and then I find out what it takes not to kill them, and then I give I give advice. The secret to my success: these things prefer to never dry out. Don't let them dry out. They don't like it. Water them, and then when they start to slightly dry out, you can stick your finger into the soil. When it feels a little bit dry, water it again. If these leaves start wilting and the pot feels kind of light, that means you need to water it right away. Now, if the pot still feels heavy and it's moist and your leaves are wilting, that means you're overwatering this thing, and immediately stop watering it. Don't touch it. Let it get totally bone dry, then water it again. That means you're overwatering, and if the leaves are wilting while it's watered, that means the roots are suffocating and they're dying. Peace lily will grow in any type of light, low, medium, high. This one prefers medium light. So I'm going to say, if you want your best results, grow it in medium light. Full sun may give you brown blotches on the leaves. That means it's telling you that, hey, back me off just a little bit. And this one looks like that other one, that striped one that's up on the counter, but the other one's more yellow and it has more curled leaves. This one does not, and it also has 3 of them in a pot. This is another Dracaena. I have no idea how tall it's going to get. I guess we're just going to have to find out together. And then we have Baby Groot with his hairdo. His hair's getting even bigger. Isn't that cute? Little Baby Groot. He keeps an eye on everything, keeps everybody in line. All right. I'm going to take you up onto the table, and this is the fun area. I have a hydrangea, and it's called Pink Sky. Now, when I got it, it had white flowers, and that's what confused me. The flowers were white, but it's called Pink Sky, and the white flowered hydrangeas do not turn blue or pink depending on the acidity and alkalinity of the soil. Some of you may know that, some of you may not. Hydrangeas are flowers that if you give them acid soil, they'll turn one color. If you give them alkaline soil, they'll turn another color. And that's the wonder of them. You don't have to buy different types. Well, I got this one on sale after Valentine's Day at Walmart, and it had white flowers. And I found out that the white flowered ones will not turn colors. My favorite is the blue, and I want to get one that actually turns blue. I'm not going to toss this one away. I'm just going to keep it because I figured, what the heck, I already have it. Now right behind it is a little itty bitty baby. This is called a dumb cane, or Dieffenbachia. It doesn't look that great, and the reason it doesn't look that great is because it got attacked a couple times. It had spider mites that hit it, and I was going to toss it out because, you know, spider mites scare the daylights out of me. But you know what? I decided to give it a chance, and I sprayed it, and all the leaves died because I hit it too hard with the spray. I have a spray bottle that mixes neem and pyrethrin, which are natural, but if you use too much, which is what I did, it can harm the leaves. Nice thing is, the leaves came back. This had no leaves a month ago, but it's starting to grow new ones, and I'm very happy about that. And I'm also happy that the spider mites never did come back. Oh, I hate spider mites. This one right over here it's a lemon. No, actually, it's not a lemon tree. What is this thing called? Hold on a second. It has a friend over here, the exact same type. I have a tag here. It's called Cutie. Cutie, yep. Somebody sent me 2 of these. Actually, they sent me more of them, but only 2 survived. They're citrus. Yeah, I think they're little oranges or something like that, or they're like nectar, tangerines or something. You rub the leaves and it gives you an original scent, not like lemon or orange, but it's a whole different scent. Mike, my best friend, he loves that. He comes in here, he sneaks in here and rubs the leaves and starts sniffing on them. A little bit of a drug addict I got going on here, but he loves those things. So I'm going to grow those inside. Don't know if they'll produce, but they are growing really good. Right next to the baby that I showed in a previous episode, this is the plant that will be taking the place of its mother in the Voodoo Garden in my experiment, my project called Growing Small, for people who can't have a large plant in their small space, how you can grow a beautiful plant in a smaller pot with more intensive gardening methods. And that's why this one is growing, and the other one is going to go out so that I'll have more room in here. I got to keep cycling these plants so that I'll have room. And right behind her, her, is the poinsettia. This is the one, let me move this thing out of the way. I'll explain that one in just a second. The poinsettia, the rescue, it's putting out all red leaves. Remember I showed you that. It's still, and it's putting out flowers. These are actually true flowers on a poinsettia. See? They do have flowers, and they're going to bloom and probably produce seeds. I have no idea. And this little stray booger, I think it's a relative of that pea vine that's growing up against the wall. When I first started the tour, yeah, what happens is I try to sprout seeds in these cups, these solo cups, and I give them a certain amount of time. And if they don't sprout, I throw the soil back into my tub and recycle it. Every now and then, something starts growing out of my tub. And I don't know what it is because I have so many seeds thrown in there with the soil. So I call them my little mystery plants, and that's why that one's there. This one is the baby of the one that was over against the wall, and we're going to turn our head. Yep, the succulent that's over there, this is her baby. I took a cutting from her. And see, this one's putting out flowers as well. They grow really well from cuttings. And you can see along the stem the little roots coming out. All you have to do is snip it off. And you can grow these from cuttings. It's so easy, it's laughable. And, yep, speaking of laughing, don't laugh. I bought elephant garlic. I was cooking upstairs and I bought elephant garlic because it just looks so good at the grocery store. And I had an extra one and I didn't know what to do with it, so I shoved it in soil and now it's turning green. So I think I got garlic growing in my Voodoo Garden. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to produce anything, and generally when I plant these things, I don't care. I just grow for the fun of it. I don't really grow as much for production. And up here, actually I'm just going to back it off. Here's another mystery plant that was growing out of my potting soil. I don't know what this is. I have no idea. It's sprouted and it's growing here, and as long as it's not illegal, I'm going to be very happy about it. So that's another weird thing. Son of a gun. Oh, point your eyes right at the light. A ladybug. Running all over the place. Eat some insects. Eat some aphids, if I have aphids. And this one is a lemon tree. Try not to shake here. This one I just took from a regular lemon. You can do that. If you have a regular lemon from the grocery store, take a seed, plant it in a pot, and you can grow a lemon tree. It may or may not produce, and a lot of people will tell you, well, stuff that you grow from seeds at the store, they're not going to produce, so why bother? Like I mentioned, I grow for the fun of it. I'm not growing for lemons. I can afford to buy lemons. I just like to grow them, sniff the leaves, and watch them grow. So it's not about the end result. It's about the journey. And I really do enjoy this journey of growing things just for the sake of growing them. You're going to have to pardon the hum. That's the hydroponics going crazy. But right over here in this pot is a heavily pruned sweet habanero. That's the one that I planted for Mike because he wanted to have habaneros, but he can't stand the heat of a habanero. This is supposed to produce habanero peppers that have all the sweetness and flavor, but zero heat. And I can tell you this plant is looking absolutely gorgeous. It sprouted, it grew, I pruned it back. It's putting out all kinds of new growth. Every now and then you can see a fungus gnat growing, but like I said, I've got mites in the soil that take care of that. Here's another one. Let's see if I can bring this down off the shelf. I got them all stacked up. This is another one. This is a habanero. These are all going to go outside. Now what I do is, I put them on a shelf here so that I don't have to hold on to them. I prune them back. I pruned the mother plant back, and it put out new shoots that grow to the side and little ones here. Now when it does that, what I have to do is be very careful that the top ones, the leaves, don't shade what's coming through. So every now and then I'll have to take a leaf off so the light can get in there and make those grow so that they don't grow anemic or anything. Because this had a lot of big leaves on top. It looked beautiful. But you got to every now and then take the leaves off to encourage the bottom stuff to grow taller. That's the trick to pruning. You have to actually keep at it. It's not a one-stop thing. It's a process. You can't hide. You can't hide. I have an aloe. Yes, I do. People have asked me, Ray, have you ever grown aloes? Yeah, this is an itty-bitty one. It was about the size of my thumb when I bought it. Every now and then at the plant stores. And look at all the weird little pokey things on it. It's almost like art, isn't it? Yep. It's a beauty. This is called an aloe plant. And when I got it, it was as big as my thumb, and it was in a little teeny tiny 1-inch to 2-inch pot that they were selling for like $1. And Mike thought it was adorable, and he asked me if I'd grow it for him, and I said, yeah. And I grew this one, called a Hiawatha or something weird like that. This one I've been growing. I got this at the same store at the same time, and it was an itty-bitty thing in an itty-bitty pot. It's been thriving in rich potting soil, which it's not supposed to do, but then again, I don't think it really cares. And just to the left of it, this single-stemmed wonder was real tiny when I got it in the mail. Yes, in the mail. It was a little tiny thing about as long as my finger. And this is called dragon fruit. It's a cactus. It's got thorns on it. And it puts out a fruit. Yes, it does. Indoors? Probably not. But that doesn't stop me from growing it. And one update that a friend asked for, actually 2 people, asked for an update on that pine tree, the frozen pine tree. Yeah, it's way back there. I can't get at it, but I'm shoving the camera over here so that you can take a look at it. It's still growing. It's still looking good. And this one will be going outside this year. It won't be in the Voodoo Garden because I'm going to need the room for other things. Right in front of it, sweet potato. Yep, I've been taking cuttings off the sweet potato, planting them, and then take cuttings from that, planting them. Yeah, I'm going to have sweet potatoes growing outside. I love sweet potatoes. I didn't used to, but now I'm addicted to them because of sweet potato pie. And I'll be doing a recipe for that. Just swing over to the right side of this bucket. I'm not going to show you what's in the bucket because that's for next week. I got to save something for you for next week. This is my nursery, also known as the hospital. These are all my miracle berry plants, which aren't doing so well. But I wanted to show you these because not everything grows and not everything does exactly what I want it to do. But I'm still holding out hope over here. So this is where they are right now. And then way over in the corner, see? I call that a peperomia. I made a mistake. It's called a photonia. It's a photonia plant. It does okay. It doesn't really do that great. It just kind of stays over there and does its own thing. And I'm not going to argue with it. I don't argue with my plants because they would probably win. And this is the main sweet potato plant that I've been taking cuttings off of. It's doing well. This is the one that was in the hydroponics. Remember? Yeah, I put it into soil and look at how it's going. Looking beautiful. Yes, it is. And I got just 2 more things to show you, and that'll round out the tour. And you know, they may be tiny, but I think these are going to really show me something this year, and I'm going to definitely be including these in my growing programs. This I've grown before. This I've never grown before. I'm going to start with the one I've never grown before. It's called a weary or weary. I'll put it right here, the name. Weary pepper, also known as a cherry bomb. It's used in cooking in some foreign country, and I forgot what it was. I used to remember until I turned on the camera, and then of course my mind went blank. It's not much to show, but it doesn't stop me. Is that the most unremarkable looking thing you've seen today? I'll bet it is. Yep, it's just a sprout. It just sprouted. Now, weary has the heat of a habanero. I think it can go up to 350,000 Scoville units. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Scoville, that's enough to burn the hair off your face. Yeah, that's hot. And of course, it's not the hottest pepper. There never is a winner in that challenge because once you find the hottest pepper in the world, somebody comes up with a new one, then the next year it's a new one. It's a never-changing challenge to get the hottest pepper in the world. But the first contender for that it held the record for a while, and I grew it for a while, was this one. This is called a ghost pepper. And it got its name in India as a ghost pepper because legend had it that if you ate this pepper you would die, and because it was so hot. Now this was a very, very hot pepper, but they've come out with scorpion peppers and then other kinds of peppers after that. They're like 10 generations beyond this. This is considered mild compared to some of the hot ones that they have right now. But I'm not growing this because it is the hottest pepper in the world. I'm growing this because I've done it before. And when I did grow this, I was in Minnesota. I had programs on how to prune peppers. I gave my demos on this plant. I had no intention of growing a pepper plant indoors to be so huge, but it just kept going and going, and I couldn't stop it. I kept lopping its darn head off, and it just kept growing. So it got to be a personal challenge to me to see what I could do with this plant. I gave advice on how to prune your pepper plants for bigger yields. Now, I meant that as I'm pruning my pepper plant so that it can support heavy yields, because when you grow a pepper plant, they grow up, they have a few side branches. If you get a ton of peppers and you grow it in an area where there might be wind, you have to stake it up or it could snap over because they have brittle stems. I wanted to get around that. So what I did was I grew a ghost pepper and pruned it, and then the stem got thicker, the main stem, and then it put out side stems. I pruned those. That's when I first started pruning and really getting into it and showing what pruning can do. That was the genesis of what I do, what I did with peppers and also tomatoes. So I was doing all these demos, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger until finally the ghost pepper got to be, I think it was 5 feet tall or 4 feet tall and 5 feet wide. Yes, it was. And its sister, the scorpion pepper, got taller than me, indoors underneath growing lights. That's how big I got these. And the ghost pepper produced so many peppers that next year that I filled my entire kitchen table. I filled them with peppers, and I showed that on one of my programs. Now, to show you what this pepper can do, I'm going to put a link to what this plant looked like, and also what the scorpion, its sister, looked like when I lived in Minnesota. What I did with those plants is you can grow them forever as long as you give them the right growing conditions. I grew them to as far as I wanted to grow them. So what I did was I took them outside for the final season and let them produce peppers. And that's the one where Gabe, remember my friend Gabe that came to visit, he posed with that plant. And that was the year, that was the plant that actually produced record amounts of yields, because I wanted to show people what you can do when you really take off all the limits of a plant and you encourage it to do the very best it can possibly do. So that is going to be in the program, in the link below, and I encourage you to watch it. It's just, it doesn't have me talking, but what it does have, it has a good shot of what the ghost pepper looked like, and also what the scorpion looked like, and a couple other plants that I grew to their monstrous fruition in the Voodoo Garden. And it just goes to show you that, and that's where I started my little slogan, all things are possible in the Voodoo Garden. I truly do believe that. Anything you want to do, as long as you just don't take the limits that people impose on you and try to work outside the box, think outside the box, grow outside the box, you can do amazing things, and your plants will surprise you and do amazing things as well. Peppers that are taller than a human, record growth, a tomato plant that's not supposed to be tall that grows 14.5 feet tall, all kinds of wonders. I'm not a miracle worker. The plants are a miracle worker. All I did was I encouraged them, and I took off all the restraints that people and I would put on a plant, and I just let them run and do what they do best, and that's grow. That's what the Voodoo Garden's all about, is having fun, trying new things, and seeing what we can do when we just think outside the box, grow outside the box, and enjoy ourselves in the journey. That's my program for today. I hope you enjoyed the tour. Next week, I'm going to show you what's in that bucket. My hydroponics experiment. It's doing something that I'm very, very confused about, proud about, freaked out about, and you're just going to have to tune in to see that. But if you want to see the other programs, remember, underneath here, click open. It'll give links to all of that fun stuff. You can enjoy some more programming, and you're going to see some stuff that's probably going to freak you out. And that's if I can freak you out at least once a week, I'm pretty happy. Okay, I got to get going. I got to put these things back in their places. Until next week, this is Ray and his little friends. We're out of here.